Hi, and welcome to another episode of Paladin. Today we're going to talk about awe, A-W-E. When I think about the word awe, I think about Niagara Falls. Maybe some of you have been there. I've been there 3 times. And each time I go there, if you're in this little boat called the Maid of the Mist, and you're looking up, and the guy in charge of the boat says, "Behold Niagara," or something like that. And you look up and you see this majestic big waterfall coming down on you, and it takes your breath away. And you look up and you go ooh, and you can hear everybody else on the boat is saying something like ooh and ah. It's that ooh and ah feeling that we're going to look at today. We're looking at the book Awe, the New Science of Everyday Wonder and How It Can Transform Your Life. And this was written recently in 2024 by Dr. I hope I got his first name correct, Keltner. Okay? So he's writing about that feeling of the capacity to go ooh and ah. Where does that come from? Is it normal? What is it? And so he defines awe, and I'll just read this here for you. The emotion that we experience when we encounter vast mysteries that we don't understand. Or, a shorter version, being amazed at something outside yourself. And so the author recognizes first that we as human beings frequently are stunned by things outside ourselves. In other words, we frequently go ooh and ah, And what's up with that? Is that just when we're at Niagara Falls? Or is it possible to go ooh and ah in every single day, in our daily walk? And Keltner's going to want to say that there's much more to be amazed and stunned by in our everyday walk than we see. And he looks at that feeling of being stunned or being in awe as a positive thing. Of course, he explains it away with evolution like everyone else does, but he says that this ooh and ah helps us understand the unknown. That we don't understand things, and then it prompts us in our curiosity to try to understand. So he would say that science is actually awe-inspiring to some degree because it helps us reduce the world's mysteries. And then second, he would say that it brings joy, that we were made, he's not going to use the word created, but we were made, or evolution has produced us to the point where being stunned is a good thing. It prompts us to enjoy one another together and survive. It helps us with survival. So that's kind of what he's going to say. And because he's going to present awe as a good thing, and remember, for him, awe is just being stunned with something outside yourself. That's his simple definition of awe. And so I'm going to ask, as a Christian, what does a Christian view of awe, and what's all going on with that? But before we get to that, I want to look at, he talks about 10 awe-inspiring wonders of everyday life. And we're not going to look at all 10 of them, but it could be 8 or 10, depending on how you count. But I'll go ahead and list them for you so you can look them up if you want to. He starts with moral behavior, collective effervescence, nature, music, visual art, spiritual and religious, birth and death, and epiphanies. So like I said, those are the 10, but I'm not going to look at all 10 of them. I just want to look at a few. The first one is moral behavior, that we are oftentimes stunned when someone does something so good and so virtuous. Like if someone loses their wallet and it has $1 million in it or something. You've heard stories like this. And then somebody finds the wallet. They see $1 million. Now these days people don't carry cash, but in the old days, they would carry cash, and someone has $1 million in their wallet, and they run and they try to return it. And we look at that and we're kind of stunned with the moral excellence of that kind of behavior, and we respond with something like, wow, that was pretty amazing. From a Christian perspective, of course, I think an even deeper sense of awe comes when we think about the sacrifice of Christ on the cross for us, and the fact that he could forgive people like us, and that he would lay the groundwork for that. And we see what was happening when he was crucified, and how that was providing him the basis for his forgiveness of us. and that his forgiveness for us is flat out amazing. Little self-plug here. If you want to read a book about forgiveness, I wrote one in 2017. Check it out. But that's moral behavior, that sometimes we are just flat out stunned by somebody's moral excellence. Collective effervescence, I won't say much about that, but that's kind of like what Philadelphia people felt about 4 or 5 years ago when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And you're downtown Philadelphia with thousands and thousands of strangers that you've never met before, but you're having a great time with those strangers because you're all celebrating that the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And so there's kind of this sense of effervescence that everyone is feeling. Nature and music are kind of related. I like his term, objectify your feelings. But I want to go to visual art. I've been doing kind of an unofficial poll over the last few weeks and asking people, and you can ask yourself this, what is the last work of art that took your breath away? What is the last work of art that took your breath away? And what was going on in you? How could a painting or a sculpture or a carving or something, how could something like that, just a piece of stuff, take your breath away? And people have given me all kinds of interesting answers. But the unifying factor is that we are capable of looking at a painting and having our breath taken away. And God created us that way. I want to spend some time on the spiritual and religious, because this is the one where I think he gets quite wrong. He talks about distilling all religions down to the core. He uses quite a disparaging term. He says he's composting religion. And he talks about this reverend that he knows. She was a pastor, and she has kind of distanced herself from the fundamentals of her faith that she used to have. And she has distilled religion down. She's composted it down to what it really is. And when she gets down to what it really is, she's absolutely stunned by it. And of course, what it boils down to for her is something that you can't pin down. It's almost like pantheism. But she is still stunned with the core. And she would describe religion, this pastor would describe it as, again, the capacity to imagine something outside ourselves. And so she celebrates that, although she has jettisoned all theological tenets and any kind of ideas or doctrines or anything like that. I'm not real comfortable with composting religion. I mean, it's too easy to just say, well, all religions are the same, and we slap a coexist bumper sticker on our car. But all religions are not the same. They all have particular claims, truth claims, actually. And so you can't, I don't think, you can't agree with one religion and another. And she's basically not composting religion, she's basically destroying religion. But she still wants to maintain this sense of awe that we have in religion. And then the last one I want to look at just briefly is birth and death. And she talks about something spiritual and awe-inspiring that happens when you give birth, when you watch someone. In my case, I watched my 3 children, my 3 boys. I was in the room with all 3 of them when they were born, and I can still picture it today because it was such an awesome, amazing, I would use the term miracle, that anybody is born. But to bring life into the world is awe-inspiring. And then I watched my wife take her last breath when she passed away. And so when you're in the room and you watch somebody pass over to the next life, there's something awe-inspiring about all of that. So anyway, Keltner is talking about how there's a lot more awe available to us than what we might think, and that it's a good thing for us to tune into that. That's kind of the summary of the book. And as my response to him is, he's probably right. There is a lot of awe there, but I just kept thinking as I was reading his book that he is treading on dangerous ground, because it really is a tightrope to say that it is good to imagine something outside yourself and then turn around and say there is nothing outside yourself. Those seem to be 2 things that it's very difficult to hold at the same time. And so I found myself praying for him, because whenever you pursue awe, you have to wonder why. Why are we capable of seeing something? Why are we made to be stunned by something outside ourselves if there is nothing outside ourselves? And so it's really hard for him to maintain that, I think. But as Christians, I would say, I agree, we are created and made to be stunned. And so when we look at a painting, or if we feel something religious in church or something like that, we were made to be stunned. And we shut that down a lot more than we probably should. And I think God created us mainly to be stunned by him and anything that would lead our hearts and minds to him. Even if you look at Niagara Falls and you think, well, wow, how did this happen? And then you realize God made that. So if we are created to be stunned, then I think we should embrace it more, be on the lookout for things that take our breath away, and realize that we were made with the capacity to have our breath taken away. So I'll bring this to a close with a couple of musical pieces, not that I'm going to sing, but for the older folks my age, there's an old hymn that says, "I stand amazed in the presence of Jesus the Nazarene and wonder how he could love me, a sinner condemned unclean." And that gets back to the moral issue that we mentioned before, that when we see God's love for us, and when we see how he sacrificed for our sins, how can we respond with anything other than to be stunned by that? A little bit more contemporary would be Chris Tomlin. Our God is greater. Our God is more awesome. He's awesome in power. You can look that up on Google if you want to. But Chris Tomlin talks about how awesome our God is, all the way back to some praise music from the 1980s. There's a lot of hymns and praise songs that talk about having your breath taken away. And I think it's really risky for this author to talk and celebrate the fact that your breath can be taken away, and it's good for you to imagine that there's something outside yourself, and then turn around and try to say there's nothing outside yourself. So I hope he's able to resolve that in his own mind. But I think for those of us who are believers, it's much easier, because we do know there is something outside ourselves. And no wonder we get our hearts captivated by it, because we were created to be in awe. So I challenge you today, let God stun you in whatever way he wants. We'll see you next time.